All right, this is going to be a fun one. I'm excited to be talking with Bill Oakley, who is you're a hyphen. You're a longtime writer, producer of many shows we're all fans of, but also you're a food influencer, Bill.
Yes, I'm a multi hyphenate. I'm a producer of TV shows and audio works and other things, print things to some extent. But my real actual passion and most of my time these days is spent in the food universe, believe it or not.
And that's how I got to know you as a person. Obviously, I've been a Simpsons fan, Mission Hill fan, Portlandia. We could go on. I think you also are on Regular Show Writer, which was one of my favorite shows I watched with my kids. But I got to know you as you started popping up on Instagram, reviewing fast food, eating into burgers in your car. So I want to talk about how you got into that. Was it just one of these ideas? Hey, I love this hamburger. I want to tell people that, I don't know how many followers you had at first, but I just want to tell people what I think of this.
Yes, I can elaborate on that. See, my origin story is that I grew up in the country in rural Maryland, northwestern Maryland. And when I was a kid, McDonald's advertised on TV to kids all the time, with McDonald Land and the Grimace and all that stuff. And the nearest one to me was like 70 miles away. So I only got to go once a year, and for my birthday, and I was obsessed with it. And that's the whole thing. That also, I didn't have any video games, and the same thing holds true in that vein as well. So that's why I am the way I am. And I was always, even when we moved to bigger cities, I wasn't near any fast food, and so I became something that I wanted. Now, as time went on, I was able to drive myself to places where the fast food is available, and I became the kind of person who wanted to try the new stuff. Like when McDonald's introduced the Arch Deluxe in 96 or whatever it was, I wanted to be one of the first people to try it, tell people about it, right? And so I've always been that kind of person. And I used to do it on Twitter. Basically, I would just write, I would kind of like write, I would write a 1 or 2 sentence review of something like that. And then in 2018, when the day McDonald's decided that they were going to switch their quarter pounders from frozen to fresh beef, I wanted to be the first one through the door. And I was, and at like 10:30 in the morning on that day, and I was going to take photos and put them on Twitter. And then I was like, maybe I should just do a video. And I didn't know how to do a video. I didn't know what I was doing. I knew my phone could take a video. So I took a video. It took me all day to string together 3 shots, but I did it. And I posted it on my Instagram, which had like 100 followers, maybe 93 followers. But I also linked it to my Twitter, and it ended up that McDonald's saw it, as did the head chef at McDonald's at the time. And they commented, hey, like, congratulations on your new career as a food blogger. And I was like, hey, that's a pretty good idea. And so
seriously?
And so I started doing it. I started doing it 2 or 3 times a week. And I've been doing it for, 6.5 years now. And I've expanded way past just fast food into all sorts of other types of food. In fact, the fast food is actually a very small part of it these days.
And we'll talk a little bit about that and how I saw you in the crowd at the Fancy Food Show, which is this big trade show of basically exploring new types of food. But that's so interesting. You must have loved McDonald's that much. You're paying attention that they're switching to fresh versus frozen. That seems like kind of an inside baseball thing.
Oh, they hyped it quite a bit.
Okay.
I saw it, on the news. But I read all those sites that have the food news on them, and I always have.
It's funny because I grew up in a fairly small town, and it seemed like small town kids oftentimes would go to the one fast food in their town, which is oftentimes the Dairy Queen. But I also had a dad who didn't like to go out to eat. So eating out was such a delight, and it was so few and far between. And it sounds like you kind of had that same thing. And I feel like that really influences you as you grow up. Like you want to go out to restaurants, you want to eat fast food because you didn't have that as a kid.
That's definitely the case. When I grew up, first of all, the nearest restaurant was 20 miles away anyway. So we didn't go out that much. And we were eating mainly like it was the 50s, we'd have like liver and onions and stuff like that. And so we never ordered delivery. We never had pizza, anything like that. So, I craved it as I grew older.
You craved it. And so you had this career too, right? So you became a writer, Simpsons, Mission Hill, all these other shows. I imagine it's a pretty demanding career, but you would make time to like, hey, I'm paying attention on the side. What type of new fast food's coming out?
Yes. In fact, we had my partner, Josh Weinstein, and we had a subscription to Restaurant Business Magazine and Nation's Restaurant News in our office. We read about, we read on the latest trends,
And would this passion of yours ever make it into any of the shows?
Yes, there's so many
various
food
ways.
jokes. It did. There's so many food jokes. If you look at the episodes we wrote and the episodes we produced, there's so many food jokes. And a lot of times, I remember at least a couple times, Josh and I were like, there's 5 food jokes on this one page. We got to have jokes about something else. And so, we are very interested in food for sure.
You had to dial back the food jokes.
Yeah.
So I was sitting on stage, I think a couple weeks ago, moderating a session on the running essentially a food company. And I look in the audience and I think you were in the second row. I go, in my head, I'm going, I think that's Bill Oakley. Like, I think that's the fast food review guy. Cause I obviously had known your face. I'm enough of a fan to have like gone to your show here in Seattle when you and Josh came.
Thank you.
You did the Mission Hill Roadshow. And so, I got to talk to this guy. So I walk off stage immediately after the panel's over. And I think I was kind of surprised you, like, what's this guy coming up to talk to me for? But anyway, does that happen to you? I was very flattered
that the moderator of a panel would step down off the stage to greet me personally. I felt very, very, very impressed.
It must be also kind of weird, right? Like, what's this guy coming up to me? So do you get people as you're walking around, for example, at the fancy food show on the show floor, random people saying, hey, I love your reviews?
Yes. It depends on the venue. It depends on where I am. In Portland, where I live, I get that almost every day. And it's the grocery stores or at the food cart pods or whatever, people recognize me. I have a lot of followers in Portland because I do a fair amount of Portland local stuff. I get that almost every day, but it happens all over the place. You'd be surprised, like in airports, it happened in downtown LA, which was shocking. It happened in Las Vegas several times in a row, and not at that show, just in hallways at Caesar's Palace. And it happened in Chicago. Weirdly, Chicago seems to be where a lot of people, like when I was
in Chicago, that's a big food town.
There were it happened like 5 or 6 times in one day, which was shocking. Even a guy came running out of a restaurant when he saw me walking by and said, "You got to come in." And it was exciting. So yes, it does happen at the fancy food show. It happened somewhat, mainly people from Portland, honestly, or from Oregon recognized me. But there were a fair number of Portland people there.
So this is a much different life, I imagine, than being a writer and being this influencer, kind of accidental. You fell into it, but I'm curious how people must reach out to you, say, "Hey, I want you to try my newest burger." Like maybe even like the Kentucky Frieds, the McDonald's of the world, but maybe now because you're moving into packaged food that you'll find, or hot sauces, for example, you'll find on the shelf of a grocery store. Are you getting inbound emails saying, "Hey, try this, pitch do a review, etc.?"
Yeah, well, actually, I'm moving into another area, which is ticketed dinners, which we should discuss when we get past this. But that's actually my newest thing. But as what you're saying, yes, that happens all the time. It happens, I don't get as much stuff from the big companies, the fast food companies, as I used to. And I think they realize it's because I tell the truth about the stuff. Most of the people who do this on Instagram, God bless them, are out to make money, and they don't criticize the stuff. They just say what's happening, and they don't have any reviews of it. I review this stuff, and I'm honest about it, which is why some publication called me the Gordon Ramsay of fast food. And so that kind of trickled off to a stop for the fast food stuff. Now, as far as small makers, yes, I do get a lot of stuff. I get a lot of hot sauces and ice creams and chips and things from both the makers and also just people who found them and say, "You got to try this," and they mail them to me.
I remember an old technology reviewer from the Wall Street Journal, Walt Mossberg, and he was so blatantly a truth teller and didn't suffer fools and would just tell like it is, that I think he petrified some big technology companies because he might just completely ruin a new product's launch. And I feel like McDonald's might be thinking, why would I have Bill Oakley review this? Because if he hates my new chicken Big Mac and tells everyone it's horrible,
that's exactly
maybe that
right. That's exactly what he did.
It trickles into other publications. Your followers don't like it, etc.
McDonald's used to contact me all the time, and they don't anymore. Something must have happened. I have no idea what. Wendy's does a little bit.
I had the chicken Big Mac, and I was excited to try it. I'm thinking this is interesting, and it was pretty bland and horrible. I'm like, why did they bring this back?
Because unfortunately these days, American McDonald's is about hyping the stuff without adding any new menu items. Generally, it's like a new bag or the new sauce, the sweetie and sour sauce for sweetie, right? Which is the same stuff with a new label. Because they can't, because of the scale of McDonald's in America, it's very hard for them to add any new things. So they actually did for the chicken Big Mac. Those patties are new. Those were a new invention. But nonetheless, generally their stuff is more about the hype than it is. It's all good Grimace. This year it's the Grimace. And it's like, okay, well, I would like to have some interesting new food at McDonald's, but you have to go to Japan for that.
You should definitely go to Japan. We do an event every year in Japan, and if you want to come speak there, we can certainly invite you. And you can
100%. I'm not joking. I absolutely want to do that, and I want to speak there.
All right, we're going to have you come to Smart Kitchen Summit Japan, and you got to do a bunch of Japanese food reviews. But it seems like I'm not paying as much attention to it as you, but every one of the past 3 years has really gone big on the chicken sandwich. Those giant, crazy chicken sandwiches. I'd love to hear about some other trends that you've noticed. I think the fast food industry is a lot of fast followers. If someone comes out to sing, it's a hit. All of a sudden, everyone's doing like their own version of it. So what are some of the trends you've seen over the past couple of years that you're a fan of or you think are emerging trends?
honestly, and I think that the fast food industry has stalled out a lot in terms of
Mm,
innovation since the chicken sandwich thing, because the Popeyes chicken sandwich was what started this huge trend, and that was like 2019 or whatever.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Popeyes chicken sandwich is delicious; it's still the gold standard. Everybody had to come out with a chicken sandwich, and a couple places did several different versions of it. Like Burger King had that chicken, which was amazing. That was the best thing on the menu besides their Whopper with cheese, and that they got rid of it because it was too hard to make. So the chicken sandwich thing has kind of trickled off. And since then, there hasn't really been a lot of stuff that has filled the void. I think there have been more. The only thing I could say is there's been a trend of experimental sauces that are
Yeah.
at both at places all the way from Shake Shack to McDonald's that are sometimes Korean inspired, gochujang and stuff like that. And there have been other experimental things that have all been small. There hasn't been any innovation as far as I can tell, in anything other than just stirring the same old stuff together in a different pattern like Taco Bell does, with the addition of some sauces that are more flavorful in certain ways. And they're either Japanese inspired or they're Korean inspired mainly.
I wonder why that is. I do think the pandemic thrown in the middle of that 5 year span probably had something to do with it, and people were just trying to survive. I follow the technology side of fast food, and what's interesting is there's a lot of fast food chains trying to bring technology and also reimagine things like the drive-through. I think there's a Taco Bell
Yeah.
somewhere in America that actually
Yeah.
has a 2 or 3 lanes.
Hmm.
Ones they're also starting to use dumb waiters, where essentially
Yeah.
it's a 2 level 2 story Taco Bell or whatever, and then they'll drop it down to dumb waiter. Do you look at that type of stuff, or that's like you're just looking at the food?
No, I look at that stuff too, and a lot of places are doing that. Chick-fil-A is doing a test with some stuff like that, and I think honestly, this is one of the reasons that I have reduced my emphasis on fast food is that it's it's a rather stagnant field. It's not like Shake Shack. I think God bless them. Like every month does some kind of new interesting thing. But Shake Shack is hard. Is
An
for me.
anomaly.
For me,
They're
it's
an
hard to get
anomaly.
to. They don't have a drive-through. It's really expensive, and so I think these places have decided we are about the value and about the quick service and the menu be damned. With the exception of Taco Bell, which is constantly hyping some new thing, which is barely different than any of their old stuff.
Yeah.
Every other place is just they're stagnant and they're just trying to get a brief burst of hype by partnering with a celebrity or introducing something to get people to the restaurant. And that's fine. They're in the business to make money. They're not in the business to please people like me and delight me with new flavors. I can go to Shake Shack if I want new flavors, or I can go to one of the 500 delicious local places we have in Portland. So this is one of the reasons you'll see if you are a follower of my Instagram, I'm doing fast food maybe once or twice a month now, as
Yeah.
opposed to other things. And I've really moved on to more like I would say American food in general, and also packaged goods and stuff as well. Because I really find there's a lot of exciting innovation, like at that fancy food show.
Yeah.
That food show was great. There were 100 things there that I thought were super cool.
And small makers, small little entrepreneurs. What I love about that show is it's so many mom and pop people, someone who started this thing out of their basement, and they're trying to make it big. They maybe got their first deal in a grocery store, and you just see they're excited and they're building something new. And there's a lot more innovation, like to your point, Bill, than in fast food with all these new types of small food items.
I agree. I saw so many. I did. I'm doing like 7 videos. I'm still editing the videos I made at that event, and I posted a lot of stuff. And I wish I could do more to promote these things because there's so many delicious like sauces and snacks and things like that I had there that I would love to be able to get. But that's that's the nature of this business is that maybe my favorite product of all Slausa is only sold like one place like 40 miles from here. And so I order it online. And that's the nature of this, got to get on those shelves. And that's the hard part.
Yeah, it is the hard part. And so I do want to talk about this new thing you're looking at because it kind of surprised me. Ticketed dinners. That sounds like a pretty high end item. What are ticketed dinners and why are you reviewing them?
I'm hosting them.
You're hosting. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
This is actually something that sprung from the Mission Hill. So as you mentioned, after my partner and I left The Simpsons, we had a show called Mission Hill, which was an animated show that was canceled after 2 episodes, but lived on Adult Swim, where they bought it and they aired our 13 episodes we made. They aired them over and over and over for years. And it built up this fan base of people who are now about 30 years old, 30, 35 years old, who
It's
really
kind of the
love
freaks. It was like the freaks and geeks of animation, essentially.
I think that's accurate. And the fans are very loyal, and you can't see the show anywhere. It's not on any streaming service. So for the 25th anniversary, Josh and I were traveling around to different cities. We went to at least, I don't know, 25 or 30 cities over the past year and a half, showing it in movie theaters to fans. Now, every time I went to one of these cities, I was like, I want to eat some food here. What can I eat in this town that I can't get
Yeah.
anywhere else?
Yeah.
Right. And that's where this came from. So I had so many different regional foods, and I purposely sought out the weird ones as well, like the Ohio Valley style pizza, for example, which is the one with the the cold cheese and toppings. And I sought out all this stuff. And then it occurred to me, like, you can't get this stuff, in a city like Portland, this has been called the mighty gastropolis. You can get Chicago dogs, a couple. You can get
Yeah.
Detroit style pizza, but you can't get 100. There's 200 other things that you can't get at all. And so, and there's, in this vein, I was like, what if we had partnered with a restaurant and served a menu of these things, of regional foods that you can't get anywhere else. And so I did it. I partnered with a restaurant that I've worked with in the past here called JoJo, which is a very highly regarded place that does kind of chicken sandwiches, but elevated stuff like that. And we had the dinners just last week. We sold out the first one in a couple hours. We had a second night, sold out in a couple hours, and they were both huge successes. So, and I served a menu, a 7-course menu. I'm the host. I don't cook the food. The place, JoJo, did a very good job cooking the food and preparing the food that I chose. And I chose 7 items that were regional items that you've never heard of. Most people have never heard of. And
That's super fun.
I introduced, I did a funny talk, I did a funny slideshow, funny talk, and introduced the items, also told some Simpsons anecdotes, told some other funny stuff about food in general. And there's also like little surprises. There's kind of like a contest, and there's also little giveaways and stuff. It was really a fun event. And so it was a big success. And I am already working with partners in several other cities to bring it to other cities. And in fact, I just on Friday got a pretty big corporate sponsor who is going to sponsor the dinners as well. So I'm hoping that we can do this in 20 cities this year. So this is my big thing now.
That's fun. And you have your own club, essentially. I think, is this going to be related to your canned ham, or your steamed ham society? Canned ham.
Yes. Oh,
steamed ham society.
Simpsons fans may be familiar with a sketch known colloquially as steamed hams. It was a thing that I wrote that was on an episode called 22 Short Films about Springfield. 25 years ago, and it became the meme of the year, internet meme of the year in 2018, because people have been remixing it all over the place. So steamed hams. So I've made sure that I can somehow profit off this, even though I don't get any money for it. And I do things like, first of all, I have the trademark for steamed hams now as a food item. So I'm going to be manufacturing those.
Are you really?
Yes, it's very exciting.
Amazing.
Disney dropped the ball by the Disney, which bought Fox, as you know. That's their property, but not anymore. It's my property now. I got the trademark. They didn't contest it. So I'm going to be selling either both locally and in your frozen food section at some point, Bill Oakley brand steamed hams. Anyway, steamed hams, I have a club called the Steamed Hams Society. And if you want to join steamedhamssociety.com, it's only $5 a month. It's a Discord. And there are hundreds of people on there from all over the country and Canada mainly, talking about food all the time. And there's different channels for home cooking, for barbecue, for gardening, for beverages and stuff like this. And this is the source. Like, man, this is where the stuff I get all my information, because there's such a huge, one guy is obsessive about foreign candy, and there's another guy who knows every fast food thing. And there's another. So like, this is a huge resource. And plus, there's a dozen or more kind of food influencers on there too, who are people who do food, who report on food, that people who you may know if you read food reporting, or who have their own Instagrams with big followings, and they're on there too. So it's a great place to hang out. Every day.
All right, I'm definitely joining. I'm going in. I'm going to join, Bill.
Please.
I got to check it out. I encourage everyone else to join. You also do an award show, right? Are you doing some awards? Is this essentially like your idea of the best and worst of different food categories?
Yeah, every year on my Instagram. It's basically, it sums up my Instagram year. And I have 10, it's an award show called the Steamies, again, named after steamed hams. And I do 10, usually 10 awards, they're about 30 seconds a piece, 30 seconds to a minute, for there are fast food categories. It's like outstanding fast food item of the year, outstanding condiment of the year, outstanding beverage of the year. And then there's also bad ones too. Like there's grocery disappointment of the year, fast food disappointment of the year, and so forth as well. And they've gotten quite a following. We've done it for 7 years in a row now.
So if you were to kind of sum up what you're most excited about in food, you haven't coming back from the Fancy Food Show. I thought there's some pretty cool things I saw, some plant-based foods, I think a lot of foreign foods coming to the US. What are you most excited about when you think about like food in general or food shopping?
Well, personally, I'm excited about condiments. I have to say, that's when I do the Steamy Awards. The condiment is the hardest category. There's at least 20 things that I have to get. There's 20 possibilities, and I narrow it down to the top 3 or 4. And there's so many great ones out there. I can't even, all the way from hot sauces to sauerkraut type things. That's the category that excites me. And at the Fancy Food Show, that was the one that, I had to try every mustard, and I had to try, every unusual, Korean sauce and things like that. But that's just scratching the surface. There's so many things in that vein that I'm excited about. But I'd say condiments to me are the thing that I'm always, every time I go to the supermarket, I'm on the lookout for new condiments.
Yeah.
And it's because I don't even necessarily use them the way they're meant to be used.
Yeah.
I sometimes just dip pretzels in them and eat them,
Yeah, the condiment aisle I love. I'm a freak for the like the craft beverage stuff, like where you'll see the kombucha and all these different drinks. I just linger there because all these new food items excite me. So, but Bill Oakley, this has been so fun. Where can people find you on your Instagram and on other socials? And you have a website, right?
All the socials are that Bill Oakley. My website, which will direct you to everything and also contains a large catalog of everything I've done in this food space, is BillOakley.com.
All right, Bill. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you.